Hello, you beautiful people. My name is David Vieira. I'm joined by Abe and Charlie Maderos. Welcome to the Redox Cinema Podcast. As y'all can tell, man, we got a different setup here today. We got snowed in. And we're like, you know what? Let's hop on Discord. You know, it never stops. We got to keep this. We got to keep it rolling. Last of Us just came out. We got to review the episode. But yeah, we're here on video format. This is something new that we're trying. I hope you guys like this. But before we get into the new episode and what we watched, Abe and Charlie, how y'all doing today?
Doing all right, man. I just came in from shoveling. Wasn't too bad, but I'm getting old. My back hurts.
I think it's like this is our first like snow in like a while. I think we had like one other snow other than this, so like we're not in like winter form. You feel me? Like you need like 3 or 4 snows to like get in the shoveling.
No, I feel you. Yeah.
So, a little rusty, but yeah, I'm chilling. Same thing as Charlie. I don't know why we've never jumped on Discord and done this before this way. 'Cause I feel like people seeing us and stuff is interesting. So excited.
Oh yeah. No, yeah, as we were discussing before we were setting this up, Abe was like, we should have just done this a long time ago. But yeah, that's true. All right, guys, let's just get right into it. Last of Us, episode 2, watched it on Sunday, yesterday, and wow, what another episode. Okay, from what I'm going, the way this show is setting up, it's looking like it's not going to be a miss. I feel like it's looking like we're going to get a hit in our hands, but I think we have to see how it translates to the audience who hasn't played the game. So we all know the story. So I think the judgment, is going to be from the audience who hasn't played the game yet and how they perceive the story. But obviously there's little changes that we can get into with this episode that we can talk about. But before we dive into, analyzing and giving more opinions on what we thought about the episode, Charlie and Abe, I want to ask you guys first. What did you guys like about this episode? What you didn't like? Give us a couple things and rate this episode out of 10 so we can dive right into it and get to this discussion and get the ball rolling.
Yeah, I'll go first, I guess. I just loved how true to the source material this episode felt, because it was just, building up to the suspenseful moments where we finally get to see some of the creatures that walk around. And that was really, really cool to see. Like, there's just some moments in here where I'm like, oh my God, I kind of remember this in the game. And just seeing it come to life, like in live action, was dope. It was awesome. Yeah, this one for me is gonna get. It's
a high rating.
It's like a 9.5 for me. 9.
Yeah, all right. No negatives? No drawbacks?
Not really. I mean, maybe it like kind of started off a little slow, maybe, but like you kind of need that build up. It has to be there. So it's not really much that I can complain about for this episode, in my opinion. It was great.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think on my end, similar stuff to Charlie, although it felt really close to the source material, although they did change some key things, and they talk about that in the after, like behind the scenes. After the episode, but like when I'm watching it, it didn't feel like, oh my God, this is so different from the game. Like I just felt like it felt like the same feeling as when I was playing the game. There were some really key things that we can talk about after we, once we get into the discussion. But I remember watching it on screen being like, bro, I remember doing that in the game, like those very specific things. Another positive is like, I think this is the episode where they really first introduced the infected in a like, this is what like we're up against kind of way, right? Because the last episode they kind of introduced it and you saw a little bit of what it's like when somebody's infected, but not to this extent. And I'm gonna tell you right now, they did a really good job making it like creepy and weird, and like scary. And I just think about like other kind of IPs that are similar, like other zombie apocalypse type things. And I always go back to The Walking Dead because that's an OG, and like I used to watch The Walking Dead. And those ones, like if you compare them, like the Walking Dead ones look funny. Like they look like stupid in comparison. Obviously, this is an HBO show, so they have the budget for it and all that stuff, and they put a lot of hours into it. But I think they nailed the Infected. I think it looks really, really good. So yeah, really, really solid episode. I really can't think of too much of a negative. Yeah, I might have to rewatch this one to see if there's anything I can pick out. But other than that, no. So I'll, yeah, 9. I'm gonna copy Charlie, 9.5.
Sheesh.
Wow. Yeah, no, I agree with you. This episode was insane. I think what Charlie brought up, the building up to when they get into that specific museum in Boston, leading up to there, you can tell it's getting there, and they do it so well. It's directed by Neil Druckmann, who wrote the game, and he did a phenomenal job, specifically on just showing how Tess and Ellie's relationship were quick to trusting one another, and how Joel is still like, I'm not really messing with this right now. I just want to get the battery. I'm trying to drive away. I'm trying to see my brother. So you can see he's hella reluctant in this episode. Even towards the end as well, he's kind of like, yo, this is, I don't know, I'm doing this for Tess. I feel like that's his motto throughout this entire episode. And man, when it got to the scene with the clickers, it was scary, but also amazing to see at the same time, because it's like, yo, it feels like I'm playing this again. And obviously we can dive in deeper into that scene and how it went down, but that scene alone was what peaked the episode, what made the episode and close the episode off, put a ribbon on it. It was like, yo, yes, like this episode is amazing.
Because if they had done that wrong, like done, you know what I mean? Like if they had done the clickers or the Infected wrong, done. You lose everybody who played the game. They'd be like, I'm done. I'm not watching this anymore. If you don't get those details right, then the people who are part of this fan base already, they won't appreciate what you're trying to do. So the fact that they got, multiple, they got, they claimed it was like a small army of people who had like played the game and really know like the source material to like design the clickers and the prosthetic and the makeup and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's the effort is appreciated. Could say that.
And then when it got to revealing them for the first time, oh my gosh, that reveal was crazy. Like the suspension and the suspense in building that was crazy. But with that being said, I really enjoyed this episode again. As you guys know, I love this story so much. But there was a drawback for me, and it's not negative to a sense. It's like, oh, it's bad that you did this. I just wanted to see more of Tess, because in the game we didn't get as much of her, but I think we did get a lot of background. But what we got from the show showed that Joel and Tess had something going on. What was their relationship? I wanted to see more. I wanted to see more of their relationship and how it got to where they were and the trust that they have and all that stuff. Could have done like a couple flashbacks, I think, in that episode to really build it up and have it and show the impact that Tess has on Joel. It's not, it's not something bad. It made sense as to why they didn't want to do that, because
they're saving it for the spin-off series.
Exactly.
Once this is over.
The spin-off series. Yeah.
They can have more shows.
But that was my drawback. It was just that. I just wanted to see more of Tess, because I think she was a person who was very impactful in Joel's life, especially in that time in Boston. But with that being said, I'm rating this episode a 9.0. Like, that episode was so freaking good. And trust me, that point deduction is not bad at all. I freaking love this episode. But with that being said, y'all, we're just gonna go right into it. I just have first question for you guys was, what was your favorite scene coming out of this that like stood out to you the most? Because I feel like there's always, with The Last of Us, the series, there's what I'm seeing on the internet, there's a specific scene or specific shot or a specific moment where everyone's like, oh my gosh, like you're doing this so well, or oh, it's just so subtle, but I like how they're doing this. They're doing Ellie and Joel's relationship and stuff like that. But what was your favorite scene in this episode specifically that you can remember?
That opening scene that had nothing to do with any of them. That was really, really good. So the fact that they added context that I don't think we got, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a while since we played the game, but I played the game. Yeah, we didn't get the context of, this doctor or this professor in Malaysia who studies like fungi and cordyceps, and like it's the first ever kind of outbreak they're seeing there, and she kind of examines the person and the bite and sees the tendrils, and basically is like, yeah, we're fucked. The whole world is doomed. Like, the whole world is absolutely done, and I'm the only person who really understands the gravity of this. And when the guy asks her, what do you like, we need a vaccine, we need medicine, blah, 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 she says, no, like, that doesn't exist. I've studied this my entire life. And he's like, well, what do you suggest we do? She said, bomb the city. They said, bomb the city.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a like great opening to this, because I've thought of the fact before where I'm like, well, the first people that see this, there may have been people who tried to prevent, right? There may have been people who knew to some extent, but, we're trying to control it. So I'm glad they showed this, because it really set the stage, for how doomed everything was and how there was literally no hope. And I thought that was dope. So for me, it had nothing to do with the game, and I love that, because now it's showing how much the show can actually bring, that we didn't get from the game. So I was happy about that.
Oh yeah, I want to stick to that first scene, and the vibe that we're getting with the show is that it feels like every first scene will be to give us background to the virus and how it impacted the world and how it transmitted and how it got really bad. And compared to the first scene we get with the doctor, second scene we get with another doctor, but actually the virus is spreading. Yo, that scene alone just showed how real and how messed up and how scary this virus really is. There was a realism factor that it's like, what if this actually happened, right? What would happen? And the reality with that doctor was like, yo, you just gotta kill everyone. That's so scary. I don't know if y'all felt like that, but I was like, yo, that's scary to really think like that. And a question with that is, the reality is Ellie really the cure? Can you really make a vaccine? Is it even possible? You know what I mean? What do you guys think of that? Do you think Ellie is actually a cure? I know we know how the game ends, but scientifically speaking, and what they're providing with the virus and how it spreads, it seems like there actually is no cure.
Yeah, I mean, from what the doctor said, she says there's no cure to this. The cure is kill everyone that has it, essentially. So, yeah, for them
like
to, yeah, it's
that's a huge foreshadowing there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of points here. I mean, I'm not a scientist, right? So I'm not gonna get all the details right on this thing. But I think what's interesting is that, she's saying there's no cure. However, we know she says that it's never happened in humans before, right? The cordyceps can't survive in humans. This is what she said at the beginning. And he was like, well, it happened here. And she's like, well, there is no cure. There's no way we can fix this.
Yeah.
But we've never seen it in humans before. So how much real knowledge is there on this? But the problem is, by the time that you can study this, it's too late. Like, by the time that you have humans who are actually infected with this, you're done. There's really no, it's doomsday. It's, DEFCON 1, like, everything's done. Like, you gotta just fend for yourself. Like, there's really no, perfect solution here. So fast forward 20 years, and now we have Ellie, right? So I'm just thinking, in the way that things evolve and humans evolve and whatever is happening in the world, something may have happened to Ellie, genetically or whatever, that causes her to be immune. We know that she's immune. So
yeah.
If she has some sort of immunity, in my mind, it's like, can you build that up?
Yeah.
Synthetically to other people. So that's interesting. It's an interesting thing to think about, because they definitely show that juxtaposition on purpose, right? Like, there is no cure, and then the whole episode is about Ellie is the cure. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's a good one. Charlie, what was a favorite scene of yours that you got from this episode?
For me, it was the introduction to the clickers, 100%. I mean, that entire like the suspense leading up to that, and then I know we saw like a shot of what they look like in the trailer, but in one of the trailers, but just seeing it like in the show for the first time was very impactful because it's like, shit, like it looks like them in the game, you know? It
Mhm.
looks
Can I ask you guys really quick?
Yeah.
Do you wish that you never saw it?
the
In the
trailer.
trailer, yeah, dude. I wish I never saw the trailer.
I really wish.
I wish they never. I wish they never showcased any infected in the trailer.
I agree.
Yeah.
I feel like my
because
reaction would have been like,
yo, the impact would have been insane.
Mm.
But because you had Craig Mason talk about it, where it's like the person who hasn't seen the show would have been like, "What the hell am I looking at?" And a person who has seen the show would have been, who has played the game and knows the story, knows the world and everything, would have been like, "Yes, that's how they're supposed to be."
right.
So it's like I wanted to get that reaction as well, but we knew what they were gonna look like because we saw the prosthetics in the trailer.
Yeah.
Right.
Unfortunate. Message to all these creators of shows and stuff. Like, if you have things like that you think would be like a big aha or like shock factor to the audience, keep it under wraps because it's better that way. Like, people's reaction and stuff just, it becomes more genuine and more. Yeah. So I would have loved to have seen it first time in the episode. Sorry to cut
I mean,
you
the
off.
thing is, it's like a marketing point for them, though,
Yeah.
to show the clickers in the trailer because it's gonna the general audience that doesn't know what it is when they see that in the trailer are gonna be like, oh my god, you know, like what the hell is that? So
To me, they could have done just the sound.
yeah,
To me, they could have just done the clicking sound and like some way of them like hearing it and being like,
Yeah.
blah, blah. And then you're like, you have to be like, okay, what the hell is that? Like, now I'm going to find out for people who didn't know. And then people who do know are like, oh, damn, I know what that is.
maybe they
gonna
should have just shown like just the regular infected in the trailer and not shown
Yeah.
click.
Show like a side view behind it or something, not a front.
A silhouette, maybe.
But yeah.
That would have been cool.
But it's
Yeah.
still crazy because in the episode, I think like you're saying about the favorite scene, I think my favorite scene is when Joel is like trying to reload his gun and he's like being super quiet and he just turns and like points the flashlight right in the clicker's face. That was crazy. That shot was
I think there's something so specific about that scene with it talk too, because I've only played it on normal mode, the game. So I don't know how it is when you play it in like the hardest difficulty. But something that we don't really take account is that you reloading during the game while you're fighting clickers, it's so loud. If
Yeah.
you reload when you're picking up Shiv, when you're getting the bottle, loading up the bottle to throw fire at them. But like in the show, since they're taking a very realistic approach with it, you're literally paying attention to littlest detail where Joel literally has to be super quiet, reloading and getting everything and get ready to fight this thing. So I thought that was a very neat thing to do, and it paid off because you felt as if you were there with them as well.
Mhm.
yeah. They have to be careful with every little thing, like even how they're breathing. They can't step on any little crack or creak they make. The clicker's gonna be alert that they're there. So I do like that element as well. It adds to an element of risk in the entire thing.
Mhm. David, what was yours? What was your favorite scene?
My favorite scene. Okay. I know you guys talked about the clicker first scene, so I'll add. I like those. I have both those scenes too. So, I want to say, the end where Ellie
Yes.
looks out and forgot the quote, but there's a moment where Joel, he's talking to Ellie, and then Ellie goes down the ladder, and then Joel leaves. No, I'm trying to remember. Okay, but there's a scene where Joel looks at his watch, and I think Ellie at that moment he looks at Ellie, but also remembers Sarah, and I think that's it's such a little detail to catch, but I think at that moment you're already seeing Joel look at Ellie as as a daughter, but not as much, because they still have a very weird relationship where they're not really vibing with one another. But I think I like that scene that they did that. I would love to show you guys, but was a great moment. It was right at the end, right at the end. Joe looks at his watch when it cuts to Ellie. So yeah, I like that scene a lot.
I remember that. One scene also that I really liked, or not even just a scene, but the dynamic that you're describing in that scene, you can kind of tell throughout the show that there's a tension of like their relationship, but I don't get necessarily the vibe. I get the vibe that Joel vibes with her, but doesn't want to. Right?
Yeah, no, yeah.
Like you can tell like when they first walk into the museum, it's flooded with water, and she does the whole song and dance of like, I'm talking to the concierge and I moves the bellhop thing and whatever. Like you can tell he's like, that's a weird kid, but like he can appreciate that, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the moment where Tess has to find a way for them to get through like a blocked path in the museum, and then it's just Joel and Ellie talking, and they kind of like talk to each other. And he's like, Tess is from Detroit. That's in Michigan, whatever. And she's like, I know what Michigan is. I know go to school. And like he had that kind of banter with Sarah, right? Where it was like sarcastic and whatever. So you can see that he's kind of appreciating that in the moment. But then when it starts to get deeper questions, I can't remember what the question was that made him like pull back, but like he instantly was like, okay, no more questions about me.
He asked about he asked about if
She asked about if Tess and
Joel were together, yeah, and he was like, no,
right.
Stop.
Yeah. And then he was like, stop asking, whatever. And I think that shows that he's like relationships and love and whatever, like that doesn't exist anymore in this world. And he's trying to detach himself from that. And he's detaching himself from that by not creating a new one with Ellie. And I'm curious to see how that continues to play out.
Oh yeah, exactly. Because as you can see in the beginning of the story, he is very, very hesitant and reluctant and being like, yo, I am not gonna open up to this girl. And first of all, don't tell me nothing about you because I don't want to. I don't want to know. Because I feel like that's his way of coping for what he went through in the past. He's like, I'm just trying to survive. That's what he tells Ellie, like, yo, we're just trying to survive out here. I don't care about feelings, past, whatever you have. I don't care. Let's just survive. That's his goal throughout the majority of the time. But as you know, there is a huge moment in the story where it completely changes. I don't want to spoil it, but you see the shift. But it's gonna get crazy, and I love how they're slowly building it up and how their relationship progresses and how impactful they are to one another and how they depend on one another. And I like how Bella Ramsey is her performance is so good. And you can see that they have really good chemistry. And yeah, it's going so well. But going back, I want to focus on Tess right now. And they changed some things in the game with her specifically her death scene. Whereas if in the game she fights off Fedra soldiers, but here she fights off infected because they changed it because of the whole organism thing and how they're all connected with one another. And if you step on a patch of tendrils or something, it will wake them up and they'll run at you miles away. That was, first of all, that was a great addition because, again, it makes more sense to do that. I would have never thought about that. Never thought about that. It's such a creative way to think. But like I said, the scientific approach of the show is insane. But first of all, let's stick to the infected first and how they're connected to one another. How was that change for you guys in seeing that for the first time and understand like, whoa, okay, they're really making this very detailed onto how infected work, because in the game we didn't really know why they were connected to one another. They would just run after you, you know?
Yeah. I think for me, go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was gonna say, I think for me, it's a super intelligent way to build a intelligent, like, for lack of a better word, like zombie population, right? Because I think one of the things for me I hate to keep comparing, but like when I went back to watching The Walking Dead, one of the things that keep like bothering me was like at some point, you know everything about the zombies and they're kind of basic. Like unless there's a massive horde of them, you'll figure out how to survive. The biggest issue is the people right around you, which I know there's an element of that in The Last of Us as well, and that'll come in the show. But I think in this, it's so much more interesting and powerful when you understand that the organisms are not just like mindless and stupid. Like there is some connection and some intelligence that is even greater than humans in a way where, like, I can't think something right here, and Davi all the way at his house is going to know what I'm thinking and then go do it, right? But, because I step on this cordyceps here in The Last of Us, like miles and miles and miles away, they know where I am. They know that there's, someone who is not infected that they now need to infect or need to kill. And that's crazy. That's wild. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that. And then the way that they tie it to just like fungi and the science of it, I thought was really, really cool and really smart. And I like how they took the liberty with this and kind of changed the way that the ending scene works, because I think it gives you more needed context than like Fedra, right? Like I think, we understand kind of the Fedra thing. I think we'll get more of an understanding of it, but I think this was important to introduce in the second episode.
I think one thing we watched the directors talk and everything and how they changed some elements. I think their focus here is infected versus Ellie and Joel. That's going to be their journey. Obviously, they said there'll be Fedra, all this stuff, but the main thing is they're going to be fighting off infected, which I think is a nice thing to hear, because the game, we go through that as well. Obviously, we're fighting Fedra, we're fighting humans more in the game, but I feel like in this version of the show, we're going to see a good amount of fighting against infected. And because of this new addition of cordyceps and touching it and how they're connected to one another like a tree. So that's an interesting addition. Yeah, I agree. Charlie, how did you take on that?
For me, I think it's just, like I said earlier, with the whole, Joel having to be careful how he reloads his gun, all that kind of stuff. It's just another element of like carefulness that they have to have. It adds another element that we didn't see in the game, and like they really just have to be careful with this whole tendril thing and the, what is it? It's like a root or something. I don't even know. They're like checking to make sure that if it's alive or dead. Like he was poking at it with his gun.
Yeah, it looks like roots.
Yeah, like a root or something. So like, you could be walking anywhere and like accidentally step on one and you just wake up a horde of infected. So it's another element of risk, that's added to the story, that I think it makes it a lot more interesting than just, you kill an infected here and you're good, you can keep moving. No, you literally need to be on high alert the entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's less room for error.
Yeah, that's what I liked about that.
Yo, all right, so now with Tess's scene, like I said, compared to the game, she fights off Fedra soldiers and then she dies. But in this, oh my God.
That's crazy.
I'm not going to lie. I prefer this over the game. The way that she died, like, I'm pretty sure 99% of people who saw that scene was like, no, yeah, this was the way to take it. Because one, her impact on the story and as a character was elevated to another level. And to see the infected kiss her and infect her as well, that was a very interesting scene. And also the fire and all that stuff, the way everything just played out, it just connected really well. But the tension in that scene alone was really good. But with the kissing, I don't know, did you guys get something from it? Any symbolism? What was your thoughts about that? Because that was the talk of the talk. A lot of people were like, "Whoa, that's a very neat thing to do or to do." You know what I mean?
Yeah. I have a take on that. So one, I didn't really see it as kissing. I didn't really see it as anything really like intimate specifically. I just saw it as like the tendrils and like a way of making sure that that person is infected. What I loved about it is like you see all of these infected kind of running in, right? And none of them are really like attacking her per se, right? Like none of them are coming specifically after her. But this one specifically like notices her, and when he like takes attention to her specifically, he like slowly approaches her and infects her. And I thought that was super interesting because it's like, again, there's a level of intelligence to these infected that is beyond what we've seen before. And what I wonder is, like, can the infected tell if a human has already been infected?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Because Tess just revealed to Joel and Ellie that she was infected. Like, she got bit on the neck, right? And she was hiding it. But it's like, I thought that was really different than like normal, right? Like the infected would normally just run after you and whatever, but like this one approaches her like slowly. And it's just like, to me, I almost got like, oh, damn, you're already infected? Let's speed up the process.
It's like, come join us.
You're one of us now. Like, that's the feeling I got from it. And it felt super eerie to me. Like, it felt like really like evil. And I was like, damn.
It kind of made you feel it kind of made you feel uncomfortable, right? Did you get that?
Oh yeah, I think
kind of like, ooh,
yeah,
this is it's strange to see.
I think that makes sense because he's approaching her like very slowly and stuff. So it definitely sets that tone. Maybe they do know if you're already infected. I don't know, because usually like they're kind of just charging at you. But that one in particular, like also, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but she kind of just like stood up against one of these like poles or whatever, this post, and there's like this pillar, and then all the infected are kind of just walking past her, going after Joel and Ellie, and just ignored her until that one comes up and does that whole thing. So maybe Abe's onto something.
Yeah, I think it just added an element of like mystery. Of like, I don't know if we understand the infected as much as the game. Like, I don't know if the game really explained to us the infected, right? Like, to the degree that I feel like we're going to get from the show.
Yeah. And there's one thing specific with the characters and the humans on the show is that they don't understand the levels of infected. Like, they don't know.
Right.
Like, when Joel and Ellie and Tess came across those clickers, they had no idea what clickers really were until Joe knew of he knew of them but never encountered them. I think that was the I think he was the only one who explained like, yo, don't talk, just gotta be quiet. And another good thing is that I don't know why they all know sign language. Did you guys pick that? Yeah, so that was well, that was a nice touch.
Yeah, I saw he was signing, but
he was signing.
It was also like mouthing, so like you can kind of lip read. So it'd be crazy if they already know sign language, but I feel like that'll be, you know,
to some extent, it was like, oh wow, they're signing too. So, so what I understand from who are in quarantine zones like Tess, Joel, and Ellie, their understanding, their learning of infected is relatively new. They don't know what they're going to experience. And I think in the game, I feel as if the characters already had some experience as to what they were seeing, or maybe I'm wrong, but I feel as if in the show, they're definitely elevating the fact of the unknown of what's really out there.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that I think you can see that in the very obvious things, right? Like I think we see that Joel has encountered it before, right? But we can kind of tell that he doesn't know what their weakness is or like how to kill them, because you can see like once they kind of body shots, I'm like, bro,
and they're running around and just shooting. It's like how we played the game.
Yeah, straight up. And I was just like, yo, body shots, bro, like head, like hit him in the head. and it was just like, it was funny to see that, but I think that you're right, because they haven't encountered to this level, you know, infected before. So I think now it's just you know, they were kind of protected, right, in the little QZ zone, like the QZ, and not being able to go out into the world and face infected day to day. But now they're, you know, they're dancing with the devil, so to speak, every day. And every minute that they're out there, you know, they got to watch their backs, and they're got to learn more and more about the enemy that they have, or one of the enemies, right, which is the infected. So yeah, I thought that element was really cool. And I'm curious to see how they get more savvy and how they get more understanding of the infected. And that'll be interesting, and see where elements of the game came out, right? Because for the people who did the game, I sent a meme today to the boys where it was like the Walter White meme in the car, and he's screaming, and he's like, Joel, use the shiv, bro. Like, don't be shooting at them. Use the shiv. It's like we haven't tweeted these shivs yet, but you know, like that. Yeah,
I know. Hey, they use fire. They've shown that fire burns them.
Molotov
Mhm.
cocktails.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I'm very curious to see how that stuff comes up from the game, like very specific things from the game, because there was the scene with the clicker where they were kind of like ducking behind that piece of furniture and moving, like that was exactly like the game,
Yeah.
and in a good way, like in a tasteful
Mhm.
way, where it was like it's not too like, oh, we're gonna put you in the game and like, oh, look this, right? So, and I remember the game how the shivs and like different things, like it would be kind of shiny where you can kind of pick it up. Like I just don't want them to be like, here's a shiv, it's in the corner, it's shiny. Like that's the last thing I want to see. Like,
Yeah.
I was gonna do it tastefully, but I think they will.
They are. I think they are doing. They're finding the balance of video game and people who've played the game, know the story. People who have never encountered the story, never experienced it, and they're balancing that really well. Because exactly that scene that you brought up where they're crawling around, they're looking. It feels as if we're listening. Know how you can listen to the clickers around them. It feels as if they're looking around and listening to where they are. That scene specifically, yeah, was done really well. And there's like little Easter eggs that are out there. Tess's lighter was a lighter that was in the game. The number,
Oh,
yeah. So it's these little things that they're doing a great job. And one aspect that I'm loving is the backpack. How they're going with the backpack there. That's just a great addition. That calls back to the game because brother, you rely on that backpack.
yeah.
So I like that they did that with the game, with the show as well.
That was that one part too. Remember when I was saying like I think someone got hurt and then I was like, oh, heal up, you got to wrap.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and then they're out in the like when they finish fighting the clickers, Joel's like, here, put this around your arm, gives her like a wrap, and she
Yep.
puts it around her arm. I was like, that's right out of the game. That's right out of the game.
That's what I'm saying.
Fire.
Yep.
It's done so tasteful. It's not done in a way of oh, this feels like a video game. It's more like, yo, I like that.
Yeah.
That's a nice touch. Um, yo, with that, yo, I'm gonna ask the same question I asked last time. Final question, but with the next episode coming, what's something new that you want to see, something that you want to be addressed that we haven't seen yet, without spoiling the end?
I'm curious to see how, like, I'm really liking these elements that aren't in the game. That's in the introduction, the first 2 episodes, because it's just giving us more backstory as to how the virus came to be. It's giving us more, a way to connect to it, to our world more, like making it believable that this can happen on Earth, like, and at any moment. So I'm curious to see how they're going to develop that, continuing to develop that. I wonder if that's a theme that they have for every episode, is like doing an intro like that, and it just keeps revealing itself more and more and more until the final episode of the season.
Yeah, I agree with Charlie. I think that would be a dope thing to see, the little vignettes, and I like how it's not. I think a show like Lost would do that in the beginning, but it would always be a flashback to one of the characters, which is fine. But we've seen it, right? Like we've been there, done that. So many shows have done that. So I would love to see these little vignettes that are just like, here's 10 minutes of people you don't know, people you're never gonna see again, and like this is what it was like leading up to the virus, and somehow that connects to the story that we're seeing. I think that would be a dope way to continue the season and the story in general. And it's almost like finding like the letters, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's almost like
it's adding more mystery. It's adding more another scare factor to it. It's again adding another realism to it. So it's just understanding that like this is larger than just Joel and Ellie. I think.
Yeah, I agree, and I think like in the game you find all these letters everywhere, and like some people just want to play through the story. So like I'm one of those people. I'm like I'll find a letter and I might read it quick, but like I gotta go. You know what I mean? Like finish the story. So I love how now in the show it's like no, this is part of the show now. This is the story. Like this is part of the story. So I'm excited for those little details and see how that progresses. And the other thing I'm really excited about is, or not to say excited, I'm curious to see the pace of the progression of the story, because based on the like next chapter or whatever, or what's happening next, or in the preview, it seems like things are going really quickly from my perspective. Or maybe the game was the same kind of pace, but yeah, it just feels crazy. Like 3 episodes in, we're already, going to go meet Frank.
Bill and Frank.
No,
Yeah,
Bill. Frank,
Bill.
we don't meet in the game, right?
Yeah, Frank. We read him through letters.
Letters. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see. It feels really like quick to me, but as much, it's all about how the story develops. So I'm curious to see how the pacing goes.
No, yeah, bring it up. I want to see the stories they're in the show. They're addressing the letters, whereas if in The Last of Us, it's just you just gotta play through the story. I like that aspect as well. But it's just these like little aspects and scenes that we're getting from the show that they're just honing in more and showing, adding more character development. Like the scene where Ellie is asking for a hotel room and she's there like, oh, I want a hotel room with this, and that. They did that in the game, but if you don't pay attention, you can just walk down and disregard it. But it's so interesting. So I want to see those scenes and how they're gonna do that in the show as well, and again dive deeper into it as well. And also, I know that in the show they're gonna do more of Ellie's background. And I want to see how. I know it's gonna be through flashbacks, obviously, but because I know Ashley Johnson, who played Ellie in the game, was casted, and
wow,
I want to see what how it's gonna go, because I know Ellie's background is heavy as to the events that led up to her being bit. So I want to see how that plays off in as well. I think it's episode 4. I think so. I'm excited to see.
Oh yeah. You're the one. You said that episode.
Yeah. So everyone, because what I read before, everyone's like, "Watch out for episode 4." So that's
There's one of these in Game of Thrones too. It's like,
yeah,
this episode, bro.
yeah,
It's long.
this episode. I know episode 4. I don't know. So, they said that episode 4 like changes the landscape of the show. I'm like, whoa, okay, you're hyping this up. So I'm there like, all right, let's get it. So I'm excited to see Ellie's background, and I think episode 4 will address her background. Maybe not. Maybe it's something completely different. But yeah, episode 4, I am on it, but specifically on Ellie, because I'm loving Bella Ramsey. She's
killing it.
She's killing it. They're both killing. And I think as the show goes, we'll see a character villain, but also their acting really shine and really hone into the character that they're playing. Because again, Joel and Ellie are universally loved by people who've played the game. Yeah. But guys, with that being said, y'all, we appreciate y'all listening to this episode. We will be back covering episode 3. Did you guys like this format? I want to ask you guys straight up. How are you guys feeling about this? Feeling it, Abe, Charlie? You like this?
Oh, I thought you were asking the audience. I'm vibing. I enjoyed it.
But also, audience, you guys like it as well. This is new, so for me, I'm very awkward when I have a camera in front of me. As you can see, I move my hands, I do weird stuff because it's just awkward. I don't know why. I'm behind. I like being behind the camera, but in front of the camera, yeah, David's a little bit awkward. But try to adapt me if we keep doing this. It's looking like it's gonna be a great format, but thank you guys so much for listening to this new format that we introduced. We hope you guys enjoy this episode, and we can't wait to cover this show as it progresses. We love you guys. See you soon.